Can you just describe just what it's like kicking in Lambeau Field this time of year, or maybe not this late in year, but what you're also expecting?
Oh yeah, I'm expecting a great atmosphere. Obviously, it's one of the greatest football towns in the National Football League. So, having played here, I think this is my 14th time. I played the last time I played there in the playoffs. It was 0 degrees with the Giants. So, the ball's not going to fly as far. You just got to work on hitting as true of a ball as you possibly can. I talked to Lawrence Tynes, who, up until Greg Joseph's kick, I think week 17. Both those guys have the longest kick in January in Green Bay history. So I talked to both of them this week, just asked how the field was, just things that they remember. I'm expecting to be layered up, and I'm expecting the ball to not fly as far, and expecting to have a really fun atmosphere to play in. And there's nothing like playing at Lambeau, and this is what it should be. The playoffs should be Cowboys versus the 49ers and Packers versus the 49ers, and it's awesome to be a part of it.
Kyle said he'd consult with you guys, the players, on how to handle tomorrow as far as walkthrough and prep in the cold. What would be your preference for just kind of getting out there and testing things out?
I mean, the reality is it's not going to matter whether you're inside or outside. I think the big part about it is that I remember, especially when I was in New York, is it's not about being a hero, and it's about getting comfortable and being warm. And I think the guys in the locker room, we've prepped for it. I mean, I know I wore a scuba suit on the top half of my body, tried to work on whether I was going to wear thick tights or not yesterday at practice. So I'm pretty familiar with what I think I'm going to wear in a game, so I feel pretty comfortable there. I know a lot of guys in the locker room have already prepped for it, so whatever they decide to do, we'll be ready, and I think we're all embracing the Lambeau frozen tundra, as they like to call it up there. So I think the guys are ready to go. I think we're excited about the opportunity, and I think it's something that you're definitely would rather be playing in than watching it on the couch. And I think that's what's special about this team winning last week is we're still playing football, and that's a great sign this late in the season.
Yeah, you mentioned Lawrence Tynes. You said Greg Joseph as well?
Yeah, I talked to Greg about the field. He was Minnesota was the last team to play on the field there. Then they went to Detroit to play the Lions. So just kind of getting a feel for what the field looks like, what it might feel like, how the footing's going to be. I talked to Lawrence Tynes just about what he remembered about his warm-up, what he remembered about the game weather-wise, and just different ways for us to prepare, knowing that it's going to be probably below zero.
Did he or either of those guys offer you, obviously, as you mentioned, you have pretty extensive experience there, but did they offer you something where you're like, oh, okay, that's something I didn't know?
I have a lot of people that I rely on that, the kicking community is really a fraternity. My brother, when we were getting ready to play Dallas Cowboys and I was kicking off, I relied heavily on him to tell me what they did for a game plan. I have other coaches around the National Football League that I've either played for or that I know that I speak to all the time. And some of that's just for reassurance of what I think the game plan should look like for going in there and how to prepare. Because I don't want to prepare walking down a single tunnel on Sunday. So I think the biggest thing is just hitting as true a ball as possible and just trusting your footing.
For these last three?
Robbie, for those of us who don't handle footballs in extremely cold weather, how does it change how it's snapped? How does it change how it comes off your foot? Just throwing the ball back and forth, just for us who don't handle the balls in those conditions.
Yeah, it's going to be harder for sure. The ball isn't going to obviously expand off your foot like it normally would. When those guys throw it and they catch it, the biggest part is it's going to be heavier. There's no doubt about it. So the key to games like this is making sure that in pregame warm-up you have the right gloves on, you have the right footing, and then you kind of get a feel for what the ball feels like. Obviously how far the kicks are traveling, then you kind of come together and game plan. But yeah, it's definitely going to hurt. I'll probably have a black and blue mark on my foot for a couple days after a game like this, but I played in Chicago for 11 years and 1 year in New York in it. So, you either embrace it or you let it bother you. And I think a lot of guys in the locker room, I think everyone is embracing what's ahead of us.
Robbie, the pregame warmups last week in Dallas. You're finishing up your pregame warmups, and the Cowboy cheerleaders are flanking you on each side. It's a little pressure not to hit any of them, and then there's pressure of hitting 2 50-yarders. Just describe that whole game last week for you.
Well, I almost got run over by the service members that were holding the flag. That's how the day started, and I ran about 3/4 around the field. Then I went back out to warm up, and obviously if I hit the cheerleaders, I'm kicking it outside the hashes, so I'm probably going to miss. So that was kind of an interesting start to the day. And then I told you guys a long time ago, the sense of urgency to win and where I'm at with my age and, the mentality that I'm having is just kind of staying in the moment. And I've been playing really well all year. I know there's a little slump there of missing a couple kicks in the middle of the season when I came back from injury. But I felt like I had been hitting the ball really well, and I just wasn't getting the results that I should have been getting. So, having a lot of confidence in Tabor and Mitch and obviously the guys up front blocking, that plays a lot into the comfort level of a kicker. So hats off to those guys of how they're playing because they're playing outstanding, and I'm excited to watch them this week help us navigate some, colder conditions. But really, it's a matter of going out there and executing this time of the year and making sure you're doing your job and you're preparing yourself to put yourself in those positions. And I think our group has done that really well and staying focused on one kick at a time.
Yeah, obviously you prepared to go out and make every kick, but your kicking has been so solid in the postseason. Would you say your focus changes, sharpens? How would you describe it?
No, I think every game for me is a playoff game. I mean, honestly, if you miss an extra point or you miss a field goal throughout the season, that's a game that potentially you could have been in the playoffs or you might lose a tiebreaker. So, every game for me is playoff football, and I don't look at one game or 1 week or one kick being any different. I think when it comes to the playoffs, I love playing in games like this. I love the pressure. My wife doesn't. I think she'd prefer I not be in those positions. But I think for me, those are – if you don't like that as a kicker and you don't want that as a kicker, then you're not going to have a long career. And for me, I embrace it. And I know Saturday nights can be a lot of fun. And you don't get these opportunities all the time. So, just trying to tell the guys to embrace the team that we have and the run that we can go on. And everyone doing their job, and if we can play complementary football, which, special teams always starts with a kick or a snap in some capacity, right? So we set the tone, and that's just, how I've always been throughout my entire career.